Alright guys, it's been a minute, but we are back. Guys, it's Kwesi from The African saying how are we doing today? And let's talk about some of the news that has happened. There's been... I'm okay, guys. Apparently we're now the villains of CONCACAF. I think the best description is we're the petulant children, the complainers. We're a little bratty these days, but let's not talk about the men's team right now. Today we are talking about the women's roster that was dropped this week, yesterday actually. Would have done a video on it, however, gone a couple nights without proper sleep. So here we are back, and let's talk about some of the names that are here, guys. Again, if you like this type of content, we do Canadian national teams as well as some African content, as well as some club overall. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So we had a little bit of speculation as to how big this roster could be. I was asking Alex Gange-Rusek about possibility. You think we go with bigger roster or smaller roster? Looks like we whittled down our preliminary list of 44 down to about 28. So the names, as you see here, Marie-Yasmine, Janine Becky, Kadeisha Buchanan, Zoe Burns, Gabby Carl, Alicia Chapman, Sabrina D'Angelo, rep that well, and I see you. Jessie Fleming, Vanessa Gilles, Julia Grosso, Jordan Heitema, Anna Karpenko, U20, we see you. Chloe Lacasse, Ashley Lawrence, Adriana Leon playing well. Nichelle Prince, I see your goals out there. I see them. Okay, Luciane Clou, Quinn, Deanne Rose, Jane Riviere, Sophie Schmidt, Desiree Scott, Kayleen Sheridan, Christine Sinclair, the ageless wonder, Bianca St. George, apparently it's a St. George month always, Sarah Stratigatkis, Erin says I have to continue to give her love because she deserves the love. Evelyn Viens and Shalina Zadorsky, guys. This is an interesting lineup, to be honest. And there are some names that we're kind of surprised, kind of look at. I think the big thing when you look at this roster is, first of all, the goalies. No Kerr, no McLeod, where we assumed they would be. And instead we have Kerr and as well as Anna Karpenko, which is interesting. Now, Beth Priestman did mention that McLeod wanted to play, that is Erin McLeod, wanted to focus maybe a little bit more on the national team and kind of see focus more on our club at that point. So definitely, give her respect for that as a player who's given and served a lot. But it does open the door for a little bit of that life after Labbé that we've all been kind of wondering what happened. And to see Karpenko and Peru there, and guys, I don't know why I'm rolling my R's today, but I'm rolling my R's today. It's good to see them get some looks, and hopefully, again, a game against Korea, hopefully we maybe see a goalie switch and one of them gets some action. But I think more than likely, we are going to see them battle out in training and see which one is going to make the squad moving forward. I think Karpenko probably is an interesting name to look at. I would love to see what Karpenko could do. As the third keeper, I don't think it hurts to have them. She is primarily out of season currently, so for her to go to Cancun would be fine. So I'm almost curious to see Karpenko in that squad. I think the other interesting name that on the squad when we move past that, you look at the backs, you have Burns, you have a little bit of Becky who can play both up top and back depending on how Bev wants to play, but the absence of Pickett was a big talking point once this roster was dropped. And I do, again, shout out to Megan Johnson for the press conference with Bev, but also this quote where she essentially says, no doubt, Bev Priestman says, I have no doubt I can see a part of the future. And again, she's high up on that quick callback list. It's a nice insight. It's interesting when you're looking at that compared to, say, other teams in CONCACAF who announce players and didn't announce players. We're not going to go into that. You know who you are. But it's good to see a little bit of that behind the scenes in terms of where she is, but also nice to get a little bit of that clarity in terms of where a player actually finds themselves within the team. But that midfield battle actually is interesting on that aspect. I'm curious to see what players are actually able to play a little bit. We haven't seen much of Marie-Yasmine Alidou other than the Spain game, but definitely training, we've heard good things from Bev. I'm wondering if Alidou gets any time, especially maybe in the second half, depending on how the game is running. Sarah Stratigatkis, again, Erin told me, and Erin's convinced me and converted me to this. I want to see what Sarah can do in this midfield. I'd like to see what that might look like, maybe comparatively looking at a Julia Grosso and a Stratigatkis both playing. that would be very interesting to take a look at to see where we have. I'm jumping all over the place, but that was a big thing that I was wondering what might go through. The next obvious question, I think, for me is what happens at forward? Remember, we're whittling this down to 23, so probably 5 names from this, or 3. I'm not sure if doing 26 provisional, but 5 names from this are going to be dropping. So when we're looking at strikers who are playing well, this is where it really gets interesting. Right, you have players who are just leaving season in Europe's. Your players like Chloe Lacasse just finished up, Jordan Heidema finished up as well. And then you're seeing looking at players like Adriana Leon, who finished up recently, but then Evelyn Vienne, who's been playing well, Nichelle Prince, who's been playing well, Deanna Rose, who finished. That battle for those forward positions, those wing forwards, that's going to be interesting to watch. I am very much intrigued to see how that looks. I really am, because I think between Lacasse, Vienne, and Prince, they're all 3 playing well. And then you add in that combination type player. Another low-key thing to look at is who plays in that Sinclair role. Right? We know we've seen players like we've seen typically Heidema playing that position when Sinclair isn't in the game. And I'm wondering if they try something else. I'd be curious to see maybe a Chloe Lacasse in that role, even though, again, as a striker, she can be proficient. I'd be curious to see that. I'm wondering if there's any rotation in the Sinclair role, that 9 that's dropping into essentially being a 10. I'm wondering if we see something, and I'd be curious again. That's something I want to see. Maybe having a Chloe Lacasse in that midfield, playing off of a Jessie Fleming, playing off of a Desiree Scott, playing off of a probably Julia Grosso. If I'm gonna ballpark it right now, probably Grosso. But I'd love to see like a Lacasse in the middle and then help create from there. I want to see Vienne and Leon play, but I'm wondering how Heidema is going to look in this as well. Again, off a good season, finished the season with a start. I'm curious to see how that is. Now, we did skip over the center backs and the midfielders. Center backs, let's jump back into that. Good to have, Sadorski back, Bianca St. George's back. That's good. Combining that with Kadeisha Buchanan, the Chelsea girl now. Do we say that? I just said that, so if you want to correct me, feel free to do that. But I'm wondering how that backline looks. And then Jade Riviere, nice to see her back in. That combination does open up possibilities now to have maybe Becky a little bit further up the pitch, which is always a debate that we have. Like, where is Becky the most effective on this team? Is it coming from deeper or is it playing up top? I might actually prefer Becky playing a little bit deeper. I think one of the things, and we said this after the Arnold Clark Cup, the beautiful thing about Janine Becky, when she's on and she is engaged, she's on and engaged everywhere. But that can also create some inter-runs where space is kind of taken. And we saw a couple opportunities, and I think it was the Spain game where we saw just Becky taking some time, and the Germany game where Becky would make runs also in the same place where Heidema would be or other forwards would be, and then kind of messes with the spacing. I'm sure that won't be a problem here, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Like Riviere and Jade Riviere, and then Ashley Lawrence as your fullbacks or wingbacks, however you want to play. I think that would work well. Then you get to that midfield. So I'm really curious to see where Becky ends up being, because I think Becky definitely has a role on this team, definitely starting. But is she better off maybe coming from deep, or is she better off coming and playing up high and being able to connect and play off of a Sinclair in the midfield or some of the other forwards that are there? That's something definitely to keep an eye on. Game is the 26th, guys, and I'm pretty much curious to see how this turns out. Guys, you let me know. I've mentioned a few players, but I haven't gotten to everyone. The midfield battle will be interesting as well. I'd like to see Quinn play maybe in that CDM role. Quinn and Desi, I think, both of those players, they can offer an interesting challenge. I do like Quinn and how they're playing currently. They definitely give you the opportunity where you can play them more in that box-to-box role versus a CD, but they are still a good CDM option. I'm wondering if we'll see Bev play a little bit more of a Quinn in that role versus that, or kind of play around with that flexibility. I don't know, but you guys let me know what you think. Do you like this roster? Who are you looking forward to see in that Korea matchup that's happening on the 26th of June? Let me know in the comments below, guys. This is just a question from the Africans checking in again, saying bye-bye for now.